In today's world, we deal with many different cultures around the world that affect us all in different ways, and we all deal with them differently. Some of us are a part of those cultures, such as American, and you may have family that are a part of those cultures that may not be American, such as Japanese, Peruvian, Canadian, and things as such. But we have to understand that each culture that we encounter will not be the same as the culture that we had dealt with before. And that's what I want to speak on today. Today I'll be talking about Japanese and American cultures respectfully and how they compare towards each other. The first point that I will go and speak on is how American culture is a low power distance compared to Japan's high power distance. As you can see here, there's a power distance chart that we have here. You can see that in the first and second ones that Japan has a higher power distance than the USA, with Japan having 54 and the USA having 40. And we can see here that shows that Japan is more hierarchical than the USA in their society. And you can see it by the way that they address people through their names and things such as that. They'll use Mr. and Mrs. more and so on and such. I was reading an article by Halstead Insights entitled Country Comparison. And to quote them, they said, yes, the Japanese are always conscious of their hierarchical position and in any social setting and act accordingly. This shows that they also respect the hierarchy throughout their society, more further proving that they deal with a high-distance society. Another trait of a high-distance society is that people have a more fair chance to be successful. So you can see that in Japan, people have a more chance to be fair and be successful because everybody gets an equal chance. But in America, we know that not everybody has an equal chance based on your upbringing, your geographical location, such as maybe you live in a rough city or things as such. Secondly, we will be talking about how the Japanese are a more collective society and deal with more of a collectivism type of culture. So as you can see here, we have some traits of collectivism culture where it shows working as a group, and the social is focused on promoting a group work. So they're more about family and working together and things like that. I was reading an article by Penn State that was entitled Japan's View on Individualism, Culture, and Personal Behavior. This also discussed collectivism, and their quote is saying that Japan is a collectivistic society. This was also based on the same kind of chart that was seen when I discussed the high power distance points, but this chart involved also individualism and other traits that are involved in studying a culture. I believe they scored a 53 on that collectivism part of that. We can also see here that people conform more in Japan because it's easier for them to come together and work harder as compared to America, where people are always wanting to work with another person or work for another person. They usually want to be towards themselves sometimes, straying away from that collectivism type of culture. And point number 3 is that we can see that Japan is a higher context culture compared to America. And here we have some differences between a high context culture such as Japan and a low context culture. Some of those say that they, as I stated before, use Mr. and Mrs. When they address each other, and that they usually don't use people's actual names. They refer to them as whatever title they have, such as when you refer to a policeman, you call them Mr. Policeman and things as such. I was reading an article by Japan Funky entitled Understanding Japan's High Context Culture. And their quote is saying in these high context cultures, they're usually defined as a collective society. So you can see how some of these connect, such as being a collective society also shows that you have a high context society. And one of the things that was also in this article was how people in Japan usually move off of facial expressions when they react to each other instead of actually saying what they mean, because it's easier to understand the facial expressions. There was also a story told in the same article by Japan Funky where there was a man who had a nice watch on, and the man had complimented his watch. But he wasn't really saying it to compliment what his watch was. He was just saying it so that he could tell the time, and the man that was looking at him that was wearing the watch understood that. So we can clearly see how that facial expression, being able to tell what somebody is saying to you without actually having to hear them, is very important. And we can see that in America, some of those same customs aren't there, such as people who don't usually use facial expressions, they usually want to hear what you have to say and their opinions. In Japan, they really don't go based off of opinions. They go based off, it is what it is, what's said is what's said. They really don't go for the big boastful opinions and arguments that we do in America sometimes. And to end off, I hope that now you understand that there is a clear difference between the Japanese culture and the American culture. To quote an article by Japan Visitor, it says that there are so many differences between the Japan and American culture, even though Japan is often considered more Western in culture compared to other Asian countries. So now I hope that you're able to understand. Thank you.